Fear and Hunger, Amori, Fear, the Crimson Eclipse, Your Turn to Die, One Shot, and Corpse Party. These game selections are a wild group of games, ranging in genres, themes, and artistic styles. But what's the one thing they all have in common? They were made on one of the many RPG Maker game engines. From RPG Maker 2003, the rigid and painfully hard to tweak, to RPG Maker XP, the one that had Pokemon Essentials made for it, and where all the Pokemon fan games come from, to RPG Maker VX Ace, where people learn a whole new coding language to modify it, to RPG Maker MV, the topic of today's video. The PlayStation Store has RPG Maker in it, and while the PC version of RPG Maker has the ability to bend, twist, and break to allow anyone to make almost anything, seriously, I've seen someone make a fucking MMO in RPG Maker MV. The PlayStation 4 version of the game comes with its own version of the engine, and a free-to-play player to play the games some people have made with this $80 engine. And I decided to play some. And so, I downloaded the RPG Maker MV player with one goal in mind. Play some games. The basics I set to myself were as follows. I picked 10 games on the RPG Maker MV player on the popular all-time section of the game browser, and wanted to sink roughly an hour into each of them. This way I could experience the gameplay for a decent length of time, but not sink my life into a collection of games for 70 hours and actually get this damn video out sometime before this Christmas. So without further ado, let's kick things off with game number 1. Last Judgment was the first game I played of the 10 I selected, and boy howdy was it a really strong start. I honestly felt like I was going into this heavily misled by the fact this is RPG Maker. It's got an incredibly interesting plot with lots to dive into, it's got an absolutely awesome battle system that's easy to pick up but hard to master, wonderful areas to get lost in exploring, and the game is over, it is a tech demo. Yeah, that's really the big thing to levy against this game. It suffers from the fact that it's only an hour in length. This is bolstered by the fact that I took a lot of time to explore and find all the collectibles in each area, and listen to the battle music and grind to keep on par with the monsters in the areas that were very quickly getting harder. Last Judgment is an incredibly unique thing with its battle system, allowing you to dynamically switch between mage, warrior, and sentry in and out of combat whenever you want. You can even dual-wield weapons to get the benefits of 2 classes at once. I had a blast with this game, and I really hope that it ends up getting finished. Despite this demo being 2 years old, I have faith that it can be finished and made into an amazing game for RPG Maker. It's built up with such a dynamic battle system that I really want to see more out of it, and it was just a really fun romp to go through for the 2 hours that it was. Overall, I give it a final score of 8 out of 10. Epsilon Chronicle opens with a bullet to its foot, stating outright that Epsilon Chronicle is not an easy game and it may prove frustrating for new gamers. And then the game opens with a woman talking about her pregnancy. Epsilon Chronicle is a game that barely takes itself seriously, and it honestly is a refreshing breath of fresh air for RPGs. It's got a modern setting with a war involving eco-terrorism, liberal usage of the word shit, and some grunts who are incredibly weird about the protagonists. With Regalis and Regina, a married couple and soldier extraordinaire, these two have an incredibly fun dynamic between themselves and the other NPCs in the game's world. Sure, it gets a little wordy, but not unbearably wording, and the game knows just when to have exposition and when to just flow character dynamics together. As it's best put in one of the game's earlier scenes, you're once again being asked to perform your famous risky shit. The game blows smoke up its own ass about its protagonists, but it also seems that the protagonists themselves are uncomfortable with the smoke at times, especially with this clown, Tront at Bile Gate, who is weirdly knowledgeable about the protagonists, to the point he breaks the fourth wall and references a game known as a Dark Fighters 7 Scarlet Awakening, which, I don't actually know if that game exists. Any research I did just gave me either Pokemon Scarlet or Fire Emblem Awakening. Epsilon Chronicles' battle system, while nowhere near as fun as The Last Judgment's, weaves itself into the narrative with aura and burst arts. Honestly reminded me of Xenoblade Chronicles a little bit. It's the battle system itself that keeps changing up what skills I'm using, and that makes for a really good battle system. Honestly though, could go without signing the dude's corpse, or the item he drops where he has a card of Regina that is, quote, crumpled up and sticky. Epsilon Chronicle is a game that I'm honestly considering continuing to play. It has a good story and fun party dynamics with an engaging battle system, so what more can I ask? Final score of 7 out of 10. Exist, huh? Well, yeah, I sure hope I do. Let's see the game. Oh my fuck. Exist proposes the fundamental question to you, the player. How much bullshit are you willing to put up with before you're scrambling for the TV remote because you're not the only person in this house, goddammit? Exist opens with a poor taste in my mouth, asking if you, the player, want to disable the more graphic sex, drug and abuse scenes before punching you in the face and stating that there is no way to disable it and that was a test to you, the player. And as we go further in, it becomes increasingly clear that Exist is not trying to be an RPG. It's trying to be a life simulation with RPG elements sprinkled in to justify the stats. Nothing else. Which isn't a bad thing. Just, why is there a sex scene? Call me a prude or whatever, but this isn't what I signed up for with my experiment, and it baffles the mind how they thought they could really pull this off properly. Although that wasn't the only thing that bothered me with this game either. The game discusses drug abuse, child abuse, and graphic sex scenes, among other things, which it can be done in a video game. I just don't think an RPG Maker project with stock assets and a character generator is an ideal way to do that. Don't get me wrong, games like Amori and One Shot can showcase darker themes in an RPG Maker game environment. But the difference between Amori and Exist is that Amori had entirely custom artwork, player models, and music to back itself up, while Exist has preloaded assets that don't entirely provide much else than the RPG style of gameplay in front of it. So it feels a little flat? Don't get me wrong, this could 100% work in a different game engine with unique graphics. It just cannot work as it is now, hindering its final score. I'm giving this game a final score of 5 out of 10. This is just Monster Hunter. Like, literally, this is just Monster Hunter. There's not many ways I can say, oh, good God, what is that? Creature Hunter G Plus is a bloody solid recreation of the Monster Hunter gameplay loop in RPG Maker, with the Palico, all 14 weapon types, quests, and an armor system all here and present, if not a tiny bit altered to fit an isometric camera placement. The Palico, I won't lie, is very scuffed considering what a Palico is normally meant to look like, but it still has its uses in combat, which is incredibly solid to see. The gameplay loop itself is incredibly similar to the Monster Hunter games. Receive a quest, follow its tracks and find the monster, kill the monster, loot it, and get rewards. Only the actual monster carving is exempt from the loop. I'm not gonna lie, I've got my complaints. The trophy room requires you to obtain 5 of the rarest drop from every monster type in the game, which means at minimum you're hunting every monster 5 times. But you won't be, because who's that lucky? It'll be hours of hunting the same monster for 5 items. So not all that different from the base Monster Hunter, so I've heard. The armor system is incredibly intricate for PS4 RPG Maker, with the player model changing with the armor set you're wearing, encouraging you to collect them all, even outside of the completion bonus. Similarly to Epsilon Chronicles, I probably will continue playing this for another video once my game backlog is cleared up. So I'm going to give this a final score of 9 out of 10. I'm going to tread very carefully with this one, because I'm at least 85% sure Universal Code takes a lot of inspiration from the Bible with its plot and its characters, and I don't want to accidentally offend anyone with this section of the video. To be said though, I really enjoyed Universal Code. I found a really nice balance between game difficulty and game progression. It wasn't too hard and it wasn't too easy. And I also really enjoyed some of the little extra tweaks that were added to the battle system in the skills that are made in such a way that I don't actually know how they were made. Like, I understand the basics, but the skill mimic and the skill steal were made in such a way that I don't actually know how it could be done without the assistance of outside support, which isn't available on the PlayStation version. However, the game constantly felt like it was running at full throttle, never giving time to the player to slow down and appreciate the game and its character dynamics. That might have a fair bit to do with the fact the game is incredibly linear, with only minor backtracking with new skills needed to access loot in other areas. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that I'm missing something here and there's actually so much more beneath the surface. I wish I had more to say, but really, it's a solid game that boasts some impressive tricks with RPG Maker's base engine, and to that I say, bravo game dev. I'll give this game a final score of 8 out of 10. Quest of Verendia opens with a difficulty select? Well, that one's new. I stuck with normal because that's what I expected as the default. The game starts at level 21 with level 2 spells. Did I miss something here? Whatever, let's just keep moving. Quest of Verendia has a story about a demon whose mother was a super evil woman until the demon and his lover killed his mother and set out to right wrongs in the world. A cool underdog story. Sweet. And the game builds up a tension between Raynon, the demon, Avrona, the lover, and Varkas, their friend/mentoree turned evil dude. So Raynon and Avrona go to stop Varkas from summoning an evil demoness to the world and make all well. The plan fails, the demoness escapes, and the duo head after her. Solid intro. Let's see where the game goes from here. Okay. We're now Frago Kaiva, a level 1 mercenary. Great. The intro having us at level 21 makes sense now. Alright, let's see what we got. I don't say this often because I try my best to see a potential character arc with pretty much every character in a video game, but God Lord, Frago is such an insufferable baby of a man. His first fight is against a group of punks he stole from. And sure, they'd stolen from someone else first, but 2 wrongs and all that. Not cool. Quest of Verendia also suffers from a few issues. With this game, it seems that every single RPG Maker game on PS4 suffers from lag spikes after saving. While this isn't a fault of Quest of Verendia, it is where it was the most noticeable that there was several seconds of lag after every save, mostly with this game. The other major issue that I noticed was with the aforementioned punks. It turns out if you leave the area after beating them up and then come back, 2 of the downed bodies in a cutscene move back to their default starting position, blocking your path out of the city, soft-locking you and forcing a game reset. Well, that's nothing compared to the game's balance though. Once you take control of Frago, the entire game quickly turns into fucking Dark Souls, Shadows Die Erdtree or something. Because, like, holy fuck, every enemy in the first forest area of the game takes you from full HP to 0 in 3 hits flat. All in all, the intro with Raynon and Avrona was really solid, but sloppy eventing and game imbalance kill pretty much any momentum the game has when Frago takes the stage. Overall, I'm going to give this game a final score of 6 out of 10, but most of that comes solely from the opening sequence. Okay, unfortunately, I lost a huge chunk of the intro footage for both this and the next game on the list, about half an hour's worth, but I will continue on with Dark Legacy. Do you ever play a game, see the characters, and just wonder, how much of this is the developer's barely disguised fetish? Because I went into Dark Legacy expecting nothing, and leaving questioning what the hell I got myself into. Off the cuff, nothing against furries. Y'all go out and wear those suits so expensive, I could live for 6 months off the price y'all pay for them alone. But when 2 out of 3 of the first characters you play as are either furry or furry adjacent, I start to question your hobbies. Not to say that the game is bad, it is a little basic for my tastes, but, not bad. But unfortunately, the battle system suffers from having to spam the same 3 attacks over and over again. The story, however, was really good. Had me gripped in its claw from the word go and wasn't going to let go until the timer was up, which is a good thing. Kaz, Sierra, and Lupin have a very interesting dynamic with each other, best shown at this scene here. Kaz is being determined to solve his grandfather's death after witnessing it during the intro. Sierra wants to go out and see the world and leave her village, and Lupin is determined to avenge his failures and stop the big evil dude. It brings Kaz and Lupin as very nice parallels to each other, and has them butting heads over a few side quests about whether to help someone out or chase after the bad guy. And I do like that a lot. This game has a lot going for it. Hopefully it is enough to make me want to come back to it later, but we'll have to wait and see, especially compared to some of the other games on this list. I'm giving this game a final score of 7 out of 10. Forsaken by the Gods was my personal favourite of the 10 games I played for this video. But not only do I think Forsaken by the Gods is a really good game made in RPG Maker, I think Forsaken by the Gods is a really good game. Let me explain. This game isn't perfect. Yes, it's got grammar issues. Yes, some of the enemies are a bit tanky. But I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think this is a game with a lot of love and passion put into it, and that's all I ask for a game. It has love, it has care, it has forethought, and it has passion. This game plays from 2 different perspectives. The perspective of Sun, a knight that was kidnapped and turned into a pirate, and Kane, a knight. These 2 are brothers, and their interactions with the people around them highlight the different paths they've walked and paints them as 2 sides of a coin, and it's really nice. Chapter 1 is played through Sun's perspective, with his companion Hestrel. These 2 introduce you to the battle system, the menus, and how TP works, which is a really good thing to do in your early chapter. You don't want to overload the player with mechanics. The fun thing with the menus is that each character has their own unique menu they access. Sun accesses the fencing menu, Hestrel accesses the buccaneer menu, Kane accesses the reaper menu, and Tai accesses the strategy menu. It just is the little details that show these characters as different people. Kane and Tai, who you play as in Chapter 2, have the best writing out of the game thus far, with Tai taking the medal as the best of the best. Kane, I don't want to be force-fed your heart, is just peak writing. If there's any major flaw I can give the game, it's, as I mentioned before, the boss fights can get pretty HP spongy, relying a lot more on how much healing items you have and a lot less on your raw skill with the game. This is something I'm really willing to overlook, but it is holding this game back from being given full marks. I can give the game its stars, but not its badges. Overall, I give this game a final score of 9.5 out of 10. Man, I really want to like Embers of the Past. It has a really good opening and a likable protagonist. It's just the lack of balance kills the game flat. The game opens with Thief, a 13-year-old doing odd chores for his mother, Kara. He accomplishes his chores, gets to talk to the chief about going out to watch in the nearby town, and then the village is raided and everyone dies except Kara. In the first 9 minutes, the game murders a preteen and several children in cold blood. Sets a mourning mother loose on the world, and then you hit a brick wall with Boss 1. The game itself seems balanced around a skill Kara has that induces paralysis. And this might be, as the kids say, a skill issue, but the Wendigo hits way too hard and way too fast for it to have a chance to dodge paralysis like it can. Like, this game had nearly everything going for it. It has a really good story, dynamic characters, and villains that I love to hate, but the combat balance ruins it flat. It's almost there, but sadly, I can't give this game more than a final score of 6 out of 10. This game is a resounding eh. Let me explain. This game has an incredibly interesting twist on the combat system, having to use stances to attack with more powerful basic attacks sort of thing. An incredibly interesting concept of a story with demons, humanoids, and cat people working together to hunt monsters and keep their land safe. But the dialogue's writing, the grammar issues, and the actual execution of the story are a resounding shot in the foot for it. It's very much a shut your brain off and go hit big monsters sort of gameplay. And that can work with the right enemies to hunt, but as it stands, it's not really worthwhile to play when there are other games in this list that do its job better. The combat system is unique, and I would love to see it in a better game, or have a dedicated writer go back over the dialogue and story and polish it up. Until then, this game will remain a subpar, shut your brain off style of RPG. So I'm going to give it a final score of 6 out of 10. And that's all 10 games. Some of them were short, like Last Judgment. Some of them were decently long from what I saw, such as Abandoned by the Gods. Some of them were really good, again, Abandoned by the Gods, Creature Hunter G+. Some of them were questionable in their efficacy, Exist, and some of them just left me feeling underwhelmed. Like, of course, Hunters of Edgeworld. But I did not make this video in any way to bash these game devs. Game development is an incredibly difficult profession, and no game will be for everyone. And as I end off this video, I just wish to say that I hope if any of the game devs that have made the games in this video see this video by some whatever method they see it, I hope you continue making games. All 10 of these games are really good starting points, and all 10 of them could go really far. So without further ado, thanks for watching everyone, and we will see you in the next video.